Here's today's First Word Daily Devotion.
Well, let's go back to the Bible today on April the 11th, and let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 25. Just point out some details for you. Look at verse 4. This is a prominent passage as it relates to the paying of those who labor on behalf of gospel work. Paul uses this, and to mention how ministers are to be compensated. He says, "You shall not muzzle an ox when it's treading out the grain." And of course we have in verse 17, again evoking a memory. God wants His people to have a mind that's formed according to the knowledge of Him. And so He wants for them to remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you came out of Egypt, how he attacked you on the way when you were faint and weary and cut off from your tail those who were lagging behind you. And here's the key, he did not fear God. Therefore, and there again, look at the way the Bible is written. When the Lord your God gives you rest from all your enemies around you in the land that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance to possess, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. You shall not forget. And that's going to become important, especially as we think through the conquest of the land. Look at chapter 26. And look at verse 2, the end of verse 2. It says, "You shall put it in a basket, and you shall go to the place that the Lord your God will choose to make His name dwell there." Now, how is the Lord going to make His name dwell in the land? He's going to do it through the people. And then, of course, He recounts all of this that God is going to do. Flip over the page here, and we see Moses saying in verse 11, "This day Moses charged the people, saying, When," there again the language, "when you cross over the Jordan, you shall stand on Mount Gerizim. Bless the people, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Joseph, Benjamin. You shall stand on Mount Ebal for the curse, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali. And the Levites shall declare to all the men of Israel in a loud voice, Cursed, cursed, cursed." All of this, the Lord declares these curses. And so that's going to become important as it relates to salvation is not going to be complete once the people inhabit the land. They're going to need someone to save them. They're going to need a change of heart. And of course, only God can change a heart. Of course, in Luke chapter 19, we have Jesus encountering. We encounter the words of Jesus. And look at chapter 20 here. One day as Jesus was teaching the people in the temple and preaching the gospel. And of course, as He was doing that, the people could not find anything they could do. This is 19 verse 48. For all the people were hanging on His words. Now, why is it that you and I come to the Bible on a daily basis? Because we want to learn the Bible. Why do we want to learn the Bible? So that we can hang on every word that God says. And of course, His words are life-giving words. And to illustrate that, let's go into this parable that Jesus tells. He said, "A man planted a vineyard, lent it out to its tenants, and went into another country for a long while. When the time came, he sent a servant to the tenants, so that they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him, sent him away empty-handed. And he sent another servant, but they also beat and treated him shamefully, sent him away empty-handed. And he sent yet a third. This one also they wounded and cast out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, What shall I do? I'll send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him. But when the tenants saw him, they said to themselves, This is the heir. Let us kill him, so that the inheritance may be ours. And they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? And he will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others." When they heard this, look at their reaction. They said, "Surely not." But he looked directly at them and said, "What then is this that is written?" And so their reaction of "surely not," remember, this crowd is just hanging on every word of Jesus. And now He tells them a parable, and the first thing that they do is they're quick to abandon His word. And I just wonder, as we've been reading the Old Testament as we'll encounter more difficult passages. These are always the passages that we're coming to where those who disregard our faith mention things like God is a moral monster and all of these kind of arguments per se that people levy against theism, that people levy against our Christian confession. But I just wonder, in our own hearts today, if our reaction is not too far removed from these people's reaction when Jesus gave them a hard word. They said, "Surely not." And maybe if we're honest, the reaction in our own heart is not so much different than the reaction of the hearts of the people that encountered Jesus. Now, just a couple of more facts or a couple of more details to point out for you, and that is in verse 37, we have Moses believed in the resurrection, and he hoped for it. Now, that's important for us because Moses is getting ready to end his time on the earth, and Jesus says that Moses believed in the resurrection, and he hoped for it. Now, look at this. I want you to see Psalm 93, especially as it relates to what we just talked about by trusting in the word of the Lord. Psalm 93 and verse 5. Your decrees are very trustworthy. Holiness befits your house, O Lord, forevermore. And of course, his decrees are trustworthy because they are life-giving words. And so as we encounter the Bible this year, as we encounter the ways of God, the question stands before us. Will we trust these life-giving words?